thank you for the people. We thank you for the relationships that it relates to. And Lord, we just want to say how much we want to give this time to you for its benefit. Lord, that you would guide the conversation, you would guide the thoughts. Lord, you would just give wisdom to our commissioners. Lord, that they would have a leaning into you that's beyond their own ability to decide, and instead, Lord, defer to what your desires would be among us. Lord, I thank you for you protect them and their families. For everyone that is here and that has something to say today, Lord, I pray that you would guard their mouths. Lord, I pray that you would guard their hearts, and that we in this moment and in this meeting would be one community, wanting the best for this community. And that, Lord, we say to you that we need your help in that. Lord, so the parts of our community that are hurting the most, Lord, we just pray that on this day that you would be their help. Lord, that you would help us see our community in such a way as you see them, so that your hands and your feet, Lord, we could extend to them. We love you and we give you this time for your honor and glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, sir. I have a quorum. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Mr. Tobias.
Please stand and join me in the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I have a motion to approve the August 3rd minutes?
So moved, Madam Chairperson.
Motion by Commissioner Steele,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Feltner. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. I believe we have Senator Mayfield here. Ma'am, if you want to come up, I know your schedule's busy, so we would.
And represents.
Miss Virginia, you're around close too. Good morning, ma'am. How are you? And thank you for all you
Good
do.
morning.
Good morning. It's great to be here, guys. I know you got a full agenda. I had about a 10-page speech I was going to say, but I'm going to narrow it down. So because you got a lot of people in the audience. Commissioner Goodson, good to see you. You look good up there, Commissioner Steele, Tobias, you guys. Feltner, I'm glad to see Tobias decided to put a tie on today and come to the meeting. But anyway, I want to thank you guys for letting us come and take up some of your time today. You know, in getting things done that takes them, and Representative Soroy and Representative Altman has been very instrumental in helping bring money back to our community during the legislative process. And we all know the lagoon is very important to our community. It's our lifeblood, and that's what creates the economic development that we have in our community, and also develops why people want to come here and live. And that's why the technology and the Space Coast is known for what we do here. And, you know, we were proud to be able to bring some money back to from Tallahassee. And we brought back about $5 million in funding for the Brevard Utility Service Department, which included 3 projects: South Brevard Advanced Wastewater Treatment Plant for $1.5 million, North Brevard Water Treatment Plant expansion and portable water wells for $1.5 million, and the Brevard County South Beach 2 deep well injection for $2 million. And those are all projects that your utility director had asked us to work on, and you guys have a great staff, and they're so easy to work on when we're trying to projects back. We also were able to see to Virginia Barker. I'm telling you, I don't know what you're going to do when she decides to retire, because she is a wealth of information and she does a lot of stuff and helps us understand what those projects are. But we did bring the Indian River Lagoon septic upgrade and advanced treatments phase 3. We brought $450,000 for 50 more sites to get septic tanks off of our Indian River Lagoon. We also brought back $890,000 for the Brevard County Blue Crab Cove Working Waterfront project, and I'm Commissioner Goodson. We all know that the legacy on the bottom of our river has to come up, and that's part of the demucking process that we do. And we had 3 demucking projects that we were able to do. We did one for the Sykes Creek Phase 2, which was $4,324,000. We did one for O'Galley Northeast Construction, and that was $5 million. and $10,244. And we brought back Grand Canal Phase 5, $9 million. I think you'll see that that will go a long way in helping improving our lagoon. You know, our community is so blessed. We have people like Dr. DeFries that is very instrumental in the science and the technology behind these projects to make sure we're not wasting our money whenever we do these projects. And again, Virginia Barker, who's very engaged in our Indian River Lagoon Coalition that takes into account 5 counties that came together because we all are connected by the Indian River Lagoon. So Representative Soroy and I are here, and we were pleased to present you with a check for $24,674,246 is what we'll be presenting today. So, we have the check. And Rita, do you want to? Who wants this big check that we have?
Want to do it that way?
Watch your back, watch your back.
Ready?
Yeah. I just wanted to, Madam Chair, thank you very much. Commissioners, I just want to thank you for all you do for Brevard County. Looking forward to the legislative session ahead. There's a lot more for us to do for our veterans and our transportation needs. Certainly looking forward to some more environmental projects, muck dredging being chief among them on my priority list. But I just want to say, you know, for those of you who have served in Tallahassee, you understand that it takes 2 to tango, and you have to have a good dance partner in the Senate, just like Schoolhouse Rock used to teach us. You know, you got to have it matching on both sides to get it through the legislature. All of these projects, to the extent that I'm able to help in the House, certainly would not be done without a strong senator. And I'm really proud to work with Senator Mayfield. You know, when you leave the Capitol at night and you're out in the courtyard, you look up at the Senate office building, all the lights are typically off except for the Rule Suite, where I know that Chair Mayfield is. And I enjoy going up and pestering her about our projects here in Brevard County, and she's always receptive to that. So looking forward to next year, and thank you all for what you do.
We do have wonderful representation in the state of Florida with our representatives. You guys are great. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Good job, voters. Miss Lisa Waters, are you here, ma'am? Hi, how are you? I'm going to read this resolution, and then you're welcome to say a few things if you'd like. Whereas September 17th, 2023 marks 236th anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention. Whereas it is fitting to recognition to this mention. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Brevard County Board of County Commissioners does hereby proclaim the week of September 17 through 23 as Constitutional Week, and we urge all citizens to study the Constitution and reflect on the privilege of being an American with all the rights and responsibilities involved. Commissioners, may I have a motion to adopt this resolution?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Commissioner Feltner,
Second.
second by Commissioner Steele. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is Lisa Waters. I'm the regent of the Abigail Wright Chamberlain chapter of the National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution from Melbourne in 1932, a non-political women's volunteer organization that supports our community by promoting patriotism, support of our military, active and veteran community, by supporting conservation, and of course, by educating our youth in the importance of American history and the Constitution. So this proclamation really helps us promote that in our community. I invite you to visit the items, including a written annotated copy of George Washington's personal constitution and documentation. So thank you very much for your support. We really appreciate it.
Okay, could we have Mary Ann Sterling and Lillian Hobson come up? And family, if you like. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm going to defer my spot to Matt
Okay,
Strong.
Yeah.
Please take a stand next to
everyone can
Mary
stand
Ann.
there with her. I have a resolution today recognizing Mary Ann Sterling, USA Today's 2023 Woman of the Year, Florida honoree. I'll read the resolution, we'll vote on it, and then you can make some remarks. Whereas Mary Ann Sterling became a parent again in 1990 to raise her 6-year-old grandson due to the tragic death of her daughter and quickly realized she was not alone. Mary Ann Sterling formed a small support group to help other grandparents through the struggles that come with this difficult role of raising a grandchild. And whereas Mary Ann Sterling founded the nonprofit agency she named Grandparents Raising Grandchildren of Brevard County, Florida, Inc. in 1994 and began to forge relationships with other agencies to help meet the needs of the seniors and at-risk children, making up as executive director for 29 years and champions the successful Child First mission of the agency with her knowledge, experience, and passion because every child deserves a safe place to call home. And whereas Mary Ann Sterling's little agency has grown from 6 members to over 1,500 members and hosts support group meetings in 6 locations each month, Grandparents Raising Grandchildren provides advocacy, training, support, resources, and referral services to relative caregivers raising children that are not their own. And whereas through her tireless work at Grandparents Raising Grandchildren of Brevard County, Florida, Inc., Mary Ann Sterling has made a significant impact in her community and across the nation. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida does hereby unanimously recognize and commend Mary Ann Sterling for being named USA Today's 2023 Woman of the Year, Florida honoree, which acknowledges the impact she has had on our community. Done, ordered, and adopted in this regular session this 12th day of September 2023. With that, Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Steele. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, passes 5-0.
Would you like to say anything?
I just want to say thank you very much, and I'd like you to see the young man that I raised. He's with me today. I'm so proud of him. Thank you very much.
I have a resolution for you, and we'll take a group
Okay.
picture, okay?
Commissioner Tobias.
For his contributions to Brevard County during his years of public service, Madam Chair. Thanks. Whereas Paul Doug Divers, Florida Department of Environmental Protection, local program manager in the Environmental Remediation and Compliance section of the National Resource Management Department, will retire after more than 30. And whereas Doug began his career with the Brevard County government on August 24th, 1987, as an environmental technician in the National Resource Management Department, and through diligent effort and dedication advanced to his present position. And whereas Doug skillfully managed DEP contracted programs, including pollutant storage, system compliance verification, petroleum restoration, and hazardous waste small quantity generator compliance. And whereas because of his excellent execution of DEP contracted service, the county now oversees pollutant storage system compliance for both Brevard and Indian River counties, and petroleum restoration for Brevard, Indian River, St. Lucie, Martin, Okeechobee counties. And whereas Doug looks forward to retiring to the green, biking, and enjoying more time with his wife of 31 years, Paige, son Garrett, and Beagle Rescue Piper Lynn. And whereas Doug will continue to support his West by God, Virginia Mountaineers, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Pirates, and the Penguins in his retirement. And whereas Doug has been a wonderful mentor, coworker, golf buddy, and friend, and will be greatly missed. Now, therefore, be resolved that the Brevard County Board of County Commissioners does hereby recognize, honor, and thank Paul Doug Divers for his loyalty and his service to the citizens of Brevard County and the state of Florida, and express their wishes for a peaceful and enjoyable retirement, done, ordered, and adopted this 12th day of September 23. Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion for approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, passes 5-0.
Mr. Divers, thank you for your dedication. If you'd like to say anything.
Thank you, Commissioner Tobias, and the rest of the board. It's been a real treat to work for Brevard County, to see everything grow and develop, and how we've protected the drinking water and the waters of Brevard County, and all the way down to Martin and St. Lucie County for the headwaters of the Indian River Lagoon. So when we were able to add those extra counties, help protect the drinking water down there as well, it helped with the whole lagoon project and the whole 9 yards. When I moved to Brevard County in 1986, there were just over 300,000 people here, and now we're pushing 700. And so the sleepy little community that was what I came to is no more. But hey, that's progress. But I appreciate everything that you all have done for us and all the commissioners in the past. So thank you.
Thank you for your service. I appreciate it. Do you want
Thanks.
to justify your love for West Virginia? I mean, it's a lot of Pittsburgh here. And
Yeah, no, that I grew up in Charleston, West Virginia, and we had the Pittsburgh Pirates farm team. We had a AAA team there, and just the whole thing. West Virginians are just all about, almost heaven. It's a wonderful place, and once a West Virginian, always a West Virginian. And there's a lot here in Brevard County. They have a West Virginia Day up in Titusville and Commissioner and D1, and it's just one of those things that it's kind of a smaller state, and we didn't have a lot of professional football teams and baseball teams, so kind of glom what we had.
Well, super. Thanks so much.
Wow. That's nice.
You too. Okay, Commissioners, we're going to move into the rest of the agenda. I am going to do some rearranging today based on cards. So after we do consent, we're going to hear item I first, and then we're going to move into G and H just to help county staff get back to work after they do their items. I have no cards for the consent. Commissioners, do you have anything you want pulled, or can I have a motion to approve the
Move to
consent?
approve, Madam Chairperson.
Have a motion to approve the consent in a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. We're going to move into new business, item I1. And then we're going to do item I4 because they're kind of companions. I had a request from a commissioner to do that, so thank you, Billy.
Morning, Madam Chair. This is a request for authorization, Attorney's Office related to 3 properties. 297 Myrtle Wood in Melbourne, tax account 2602194, located in District 4. 180 Rita Boulevard in Melbourne Beach, tax account 2850125, located in District 3. 5640 Brandon Street, Cocoa, tax account 2304767, located in District 1. If the board were to approve this request, staff would seek approval to proceed with foreclosure from the Code Enforcement Special Magistrate on September 21st.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, I have no cards. What's your pleasure?
Make a motion for approval, Madam Chair.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Goodson, second by Commissioner Feltner. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Item I4.
Chair.
Oh, yes, sir.
Can we please go back to I1? I have a companion motion with that one, Madam Chair.
Oh, certainly, sir.
Thank you. First of all, was in full support of that. And my question when this appeared on the agenda, were there any similar properties that met those criteria? I'd like to thank Billy M. Prasad Esquire for answering my question, working with me to brainstorm ways to handle advanced code enforcement cases like this in the future. Some of these cases have been going on for years, and staff does not really have a clear direction in which to go. These uniform parameters suggested by staff would create a streamlined process where certain properties are not singled out. Some of the parameters can include homestead status. At least 3 months have passed since an imposition of the lien. There's an active violation leading to severe blight. A lien has reached its expiration. The fine has reached the maximum. The owner of the property is a habitual offender, and community or law enforcement request. So I do have a motion to direct staff to review its code enforcement cases on a semi-annual basis to identify those cases that it would be in the best interest of the public to move forward with foreclosure. Factors staff should consider shall include, but are not limited to. These are the ones that I just mentioned, but for sake of the motion, I'll read them again. Homestead status, at least 3 months have passed since imposition of lien. There's an active violation leading to severe blight. A lien has reached its expiration. The fine has reached the maximum allowable under our code. The owner of the property is a habitual offender in community or law enforcement requests. Madam Chair, that's the motion to look at other properties that meet these guidelines. So we are treating everyone equally and fairly, Madam
I
Chair.
will second the motion, Madam
Thank
Chairperson.
you. Motion is second. Seems reasonable. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Item I4 now.
Thank you, Madam Chair. After being learned by staff regarding the previous item at one of the properties in my district, I asked a simple question: why does this even need to come to our board? And it does because it's in ordinance. So by removing board approval from the process, it will not bog down the board nor the process of moving forward with foreclosures or derelict or potential dangerous properties. It takes politics out of it. Although I don't think anyone on this board would do this, it would also prevent commissioners from cherry picking which property to move forward with foreclosure proceedings. The cases would still be seen before a special magistrate. In fact, I've attached a timeline of code enforcement process from inception through foreclosure, which contains 37 steps. You can see that there are numerous opportunities in which the property owner is notified and has plenty of time to address the issues and does not, I would like to see Section 176C2 in County Code removing the Board of County Commissioners from foreclosure proceedings. This would not prevent staff from seeking board direction if they felt it necessary. It just removes the requirement to do so for every case. So the motion I'd like to present is to move issue legislative intent and permission to advertise an amendment to Section 176C to Brevard County Code of Ordinances to align authorization procedures to foreclose on county enforcement liens and those found in Florida statute section 162.09, section 3, Madam Chair. That's the
you.
motion. I'm open to questions.
I have a motion, and Commissioners, I have no other lights. What's your pleasure?
Second.
I have a second by Commissioner Feltner. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, sir. A lot of good work there. Item I. Mr. Post, I'm going to let you open, then I'm going to do public comment card, sir. Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners. We're bringing before you today a request from the Economic Development Zone and its Board of Directors that the County Commission approve a grant award resolution in the amount of up to $1.26 million as an economic development inducement for Project Topaz. We are referring to the company as Topaz because they have requested confidentiality of records and non-disclosure per Florida law. This project is a qualified industry targeted sector business under the zone's economic development plan. That is our strategic plan that was approved by the commission back in 2012. It involves a that has specialized manufacturing capabilities, and they would be working to fulfill a contract with the U.S. Department of Defense. This contract could extend over multiple decades. To fulfill the contract, the company is looking for the placement of a facility, a production facility within a light industrial district. They are considering sites in other states. We do know that Alabama and Colorado are being considered, where we have been told that the company is looking at retrofitting existing buildings. We do not have anything in our area. They would have to build a new facility if they chose the Florida site. That project would be expected to be about $107 million. In full disclosure, the company is discussing with the U.S. government the possibility of transferring title to the structure. If they did that, it would be off the tax rolls. The company, though, would still build the building. They would still have to pay for the permitting fees, the licensing. That would be several $1 million to the local jurisdiction. They would also have to pay the sales tax on construction materials as well. The project would have other significant economic development benefits. It would lead to the creation of 300 new jobs by the year 2033. And the average annual wage for those jobs would be $89,466. In addition to those jobs, could military personnel at the site. These would be civilian and militaries. Approximately 80% of that contingent would be permanently assigned to the facility, and we believe that could induce the purchase of local housing. The source of the grant would be the money in the zone's restricted account. These are monies that are deposited there annually. Under the, we can only use the funds for economic development purposes, and this would be an eligible use. I appreciate the county attorney's office for helping us craft the incentive agreement that was in your packet. This, of course, sets the terms and conditions for the grant. The company has accepted this document. In keeping with our practice of performance-based grants, the grants would only be issued once the jobs are created and documented to us. The agreement does have two clawbacks, one related to us tracking the job they are maintained for at least 3 years after they're created. And also we have a clawback that is based on that average annual wage. If they fall below that, we can claw back a percentage of the grant. And I'll stop at this point and see if you have any questions.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Sandra Sullivan. Look very nice today.
Good morning. Sandra Sullivan, South Patrick Shores. So when Aaron Brockovich came to the county a few years ago in response to the dump and PFAS contamination, she said, what I've learned in working with the communities is they can handle the truth. What they can't handle is the lies. Aaron Brockovich. So what does this have to do with this? So in the minutes for embeds, this is all very secret, right? Can't discuss it in the meeting, non-disclosures, and can't discuss what this is about. So let's talk about what this is really about, because when you look up Project Topaz, you find it's about nuclear manufacturing, and you look at recent events, it becomes pretty apparent what this is about. So the title of this article is DARPA and NASA pick Lockheed Martin to demonstrate Draco nuclear rocket. NASA and the Pentagon's Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency have selected Lockheed Martin and BWX Technologies to move forward with the development of a nuclear thermal rocket, or NTR, that could blaze a trail for future missions to the moon and Mars. This was July of 2023. In 2021, the first part of this agreement was with Blue Origin as well, so they are involved with this. It says these more powerful and efficient nuclear thermal propulsion systems can provide faster transit times between destinations, reducing transit time. So this technology can be used to transport humans and materials to the moon. So let's talk about what this really is about a nuclear manufacturing facility, and hence the involvement of the military, because this is involving DARPA. I think the people have a right to know when projects are being done. I also want to talk about the lease with NASA. So in the lease between Space Florida and NASA, because we're really talking about North Merritt Island, because no tax is on that federal property, which is why the incorporation of Merritt Island, the removal of those federal lands initiative that you guys tried to pull off. It's prohibited uses. NASA lease prohibits certain uses in Exploration Park, including highly hazardous activities, heavy industrial manufacturing. So I think at this point right now, you're going to move ahead with this. You got kind of some legal issues to kind of move through and getting that agreement with the federal government amended. So I just want to
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Miss Katie Delaney. And then Mr. Ratherman, you'll be next, sir. Oh, Commissioner Still, did you want to say something there? Wait till after this.
I'll wait.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Good morning, Commissioners. I would like to express that I do not necessarily oppose Project Topaz. However, I find myself struggling with the fact that we are distributing over $1.2 million of taxpayer money to a company who remains anonymous. The other piece of this that is very unclear is the location of the project. Are we talking about North Merritt Island federal lands, or are we talking about within the city limits of Titusville? This lack of transparency is concerning, and I respectfully request that we consider these issues to ensure openness and clarity in the decision-making process. Thank you.
Mr. Ratherman?
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Jack Ratterman, 568 East Hall Road, Merritt Island. I'm all for NASA and traveling to the outer limits, but the location of this facility is my biggest concern. On a barrier island that often floods and is very susceptible to, hurricanes. I would hope that we would look at the mainland, and I'm sure Commissioner Pritchard would enjoy having a facility like that that would bring in all those jobs in Titusville and not Merritt Island. So I'm respectfully requesting that the location be really considered for the area that has the greatest safety for this, and that's not going to be North Merritt Island. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Steele, sir.
Thank you. First of all, I'm in complete favor of this grant. And I don't think anybody in this room would doubt that the United States of America needs to deal from a position of strength. And this particular issue that's coming up is one that is a national defense issue. I can't disclose what I do know. I can't disclose where it's going to go, but I can tell you this: we need all the strength that we can get. Now, I am completely convinced that what they're trying to do is going to be safe and is going to be in the best interest of our county and our state and our country. So I asked the commission today to understand that when you're dealing with something that is as secretive as this, that you have to understand that we also have a national defense issue involved. So as a result of that, I would hope and pray that wherever the location is, I happen to know where it is, but I can assure you that the people that will be building the facility will do it in the absolute safest manner. So there are risks involved in anything that we do with economic impacts and things of this nature. This is something that I think that we need. It's a national defense issue. It's something that I think the security of the United States has to deal with and our armed forces have to deal with. So I'm in complete favor of this motion, and I hope that everybody in this commission votes yes on it.
Thank you. Commissioner Goodson, I think you're trying to push your button.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is it wrong I was under the assumption it was going to be built off of Grissom Boulevard in Titusville. Is that true?
I'm not sure if I'm allowed to divulge the exact location, but I can say with certainty it's not a Merritt Island location that they are looking at.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, that's what I thought too. Okay. Now, in the future, will they move it to Merritt Island, or you don't know?
Do not know.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And it's also in light industrial area.
It is in a light industrial
Yeah.
district.
Yeah. Commissioner Tobias?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I wanted to thank Troy Post for being so diligent on this one. And I'll tell you what, Madam Chair, I was almost here. But let me point out some of the positives here that almost got me there. We just looked at L3 Harris tax abatement. That was about $6.68 million, or what it would have accounted for $33,233 per job we'd have been paying. This has more jobs, 50% more jobs, for a total of 300 for a fifth the cost. So in other words, the job total here is about $4,200. So this is about 8 or 9 times better of a deal than what the L3 Harris deal was. So Madam Chair, I was very close on this one, but I wanted to point out some positives, and I certainly wanted to thank Mr. Post for bringing this to our attention and working so diligently on this one. My only question was Topaz. I looked it up. It's the 9th cheapest birthstone. So next time, you should probably go higher into Ruby. Topaz need to be better. But anyway, Madam Chair, I was close on this one.
Okay, so if it would have been diamond, we would have been good to roll. Yeah, gotcha. Okay, commissioners, I have no more lights from you. Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve, Madam Chairperson.
Motion by Commissioner Steele,
Second.
second by Commissioner Goodson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I know, but we almost had you, Commissioner Tobias. One day I'm going to get you over here on this side. But thank you, sir, for all your studying on that as well. I certainly do appreciate all the work you put into things. And I do understand your platform on what you do. We are moving into items G.
To consider adopting an ordinance rescinding the economic development ad valorem tax exemption for Project Rainbow, Midwest Dental Arts Incorporated. Midwest Dental Arts was granted the economic development incentive under Ordinance 2018-17 for the expansion of an existing business. They were granted an 8-year, 80% exemption. Midwest Dental Arts is in their second year of real property exemption and first year of tangible personal property exemption. This company no longer qualifies for the county's program as they were unable to meet the established employee count for calendar year 2022. Certified letters have been sent to the company notifying them of this action.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Tobias, you have a light on, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to thank Karen Condi for answering all the questions I had about this and following up with the company, which is more than a certain organization that we pay millions of dollars to. It seems that the EDC's attempt to help businesses get incentives, but does not follow through or monitor or mentor their progress to ensure that those jobs are kept. I want to make it clear that these comments are not a reflection of the individual business itself, but the EDC. Let me tell you why I'm disturbed. Once again, they have misled and have misleading propaganda, I guess is the best I can call it, provided to the board 1 week ago. We all got a handout where they highlighted project announcements. They attached it to them where they took credit for companies that they knew could not meet the jobs requirement by ordinance. That was 1 week after the board passed legislative intent to rescind this abatement. Either they are not paying attention or they think we are not paying attention. As of January 2023, this very company that the EDC hailed as a success when the county received Midwest Dental Annual Report an additional 4 employees, yet they have received to date a total abatement of $23,513. This does not seem like something the EDC should probably be bragging about. I can understand these are tough economic times for businesses, but this is not an excuse for a primarily public organization. That being said, I'd like to make a motion. I move to adopt an ordinance rescinding the economic development ad valorem tax exemption for Midwest Dental Arts, directing the county attorney to receive the ordinance, to revise the ordinance to express required reimbursement of those ad valorem taxes abated during the time period in which Midwest Dental was no longer compliant with the terms of exemption, and authorize the chair to sign the revised ordinance. That is my motion, Madam Chair.
I second, Madam Chairperson.
Okay, Commissioner Tobias, that's kind of something that I wasn't ready for. But if you have the votes, you have the votes. But I would almost like to take a little bit of extra time to take a peek at that and to find out, because if they met the criteria for the past years, if we do this, we might be starting a whole new thing moving forward with existing businesses. So I just need to figure out what kind of harm we're going to cause with this vote in my head. So, yes, sir.
Sorry. Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
The way this ordinance was written was different from the way previous ordinances were
Just
written
this
for
one?
tax abatement. So my intent was exactly what you were discussing, was to look back at previous ones as far as clawbacks. But I've been informed that there would be many problems that I'm sure the county manager, the county attorney would be more than willing to discuss. So District 3 office will not be bringing that portion back for any of the other ones. That being said, if you would rather wait on this, whether I have the votes or not, I would certainly be more than willing to. I just wanted to give you the backstory on this. So that would be your call. If you'd like to table it, I certainly would second that motion till the next meeting, Madam Chair.
Mr. Tobias, it's in Palm Bay. Is that your district there? Or is this Commissioner Steele's?
This is in that district, and
Okay.
this one will only be limited to the current, since the time that they did not qualify will not go to earlier years.
Okay. Okay, Commissioner Tobias, your district. I'm with
Madam
you.
Chairperson,
Yes,
may
sir.
I say something on this,
Please.
Thank you very much. As you probably all know, and you've seen in the past, I'm the biggest supporter of economic development development and incentives that there is. But I'm going to tell you, that road goes both ways. In fact, this company did not meet the criteria. This thing needs to be done away with right away. So I can assure you that if we're tracking this and we're doing it correctly, and I think Chairperson Pritchett is looking to make sure that that's the case. Am I correct, Chairperson?
Correct.
Okay. So in the event that we track it and we determine that they've not met the criteria, I'm not in favor of them continuing economic development incentives for people that are non-performing. So I want you to know that road goes both ways. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Abate, is that no light, sir?
That was the previous one. That was good. We're good.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Item G2.
Sure, Commissioner.
I'll go ahead and introduce it.
Good morning. Mary Ellen Donner, Brevard County Parks and Recreation Department Director. This is a public hearing to determine the viability of limiting two consecutive weekends or 15 consecutive days for special events at Wickham Park. Additionally, for the months of January, February, March, and April, beginning in 2025, there would be one weekend per month without a special event.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wickham Park, since the pavilion at BCC, many of you remember the pavilion that was there before they put dorms up. That was a venue for a lot of festivals for many years. And since that's gone away, Wickham Park has turned into a venue for festivals. There are many people, myself included, who live close by and feel like the park is changing from being a community park to, again, a venue for festivals. So what this seeks to do is to limit the amount of time of any one festival to 15 consecutive days or 2 weekends, and to return one weekend a month to the residents festival free in the nice months, January, February, March, and April. And that's my motion.
I'm going to go ahead and call cards.
Yep.
Okay. Miss Julie Mikowski. And then I will have Monique Seaman.
I have some maps for you. Come up there.
Thank you.
Okay, some history Mr. Feltner just went through. When we lost the lease with the college, the county then removed a very popular and heavily used ball field to build the event pavilion and moved all the events into Wickham Park. These events started small and have grown considerably in the past few years in both numbers and attendance. Last year, there was an event at the park every weekend but 2, from January through mid-June. That's only 2 weekends out of 24 without an event. In some days, over 20,000 people per day in the park. Looking at the map, this is an aerial from the property appraiser's office taken in January of this year during the Renaissance Fair. The outlined area at the top is fenced off from public use for 9 weeks for this event. This shuts down the entire back half of the disc golf course that has been there for over 30 years. The parking, which is indicated in the orange lettering, that's where everybody parks, pretty much consumes all the open area of the park. Most other events are at the pavilion, the new pavilion, which is located just above that playground place there. When they're there, they fence that area off and use all that other area for parking, including in the back there. Trying to use the park during these events is not so park-like with the traffic and the noise, and that is if you can even get in the park. Some of the large events cause traffic problems along Wickham and Parkway, as there's just no good way to get that many people into the park and off the road. The entrance line backs up and spills onto Wickham Road as they funnel all the traffic through the Wickham entrance, and they block southbound traffic from making a left into the park, which causes U-turns on Wickham, chaos, and the whole area just jams up. Other issues are the wear and tear on the park roads, and the restrooms. The fields used for event parking have gotten so depressed that they flood after a decent rain, creating ponds deep enough for ducks. We have a lot of wild gopher tortoises that suffer the traffic and the noise and blocking of their movements when the event fences and tents go up. In sum, the Friends of Wickham Park fully support this ordinance that will give the people more time to enjoy the use of their park as a park. We ask that you pass it. We also ask that the county would consider some alternatives to Wickham for events, whether that be another county location, sending them to the private sector, or spreading them among other parks. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Monique Seaman, and then Theodore Minus.
Hi. Thank you for listening. Friends of Wickham Park are a group of park enthusiasts who are passionate about environmental stewardship of the park's natural resources and wildlife, so they remain intact for future generations. I consider myself a friend of Wickham Park, and I want to address why the current management of events is a detriment to the park. It's not realistic. Shouldn't have several years. Park management has grown the park events dramatically in number, size, length of time, space occupied, and parking areas provided, to the point where the park becomes just a space for the events and their advertising, and is unsafe for individuals and families that live in the area, use the roadways, and use the park for its intended purpose. I am assuming the park's intended purpose is to provide recreational opportunities that are in alignment with the spirit of the park and preserve its natural resources to provide wildlife habitat and natural beauty for all to enjoy, and to protect our state's endangered keystone species, gopher tortoises, which they have not. The current park management has cost the park and local community through allowing outside agencies with sometimes no ties to price gouge and afford their vendors and employees free stay at the park in their vehicles, RVs, and tents all over the park. These vendors have taken business from our local restaurants, small businesses, and their employees. By far, the biggest event is the Renaissance Fair. The gentleman who runs the Renaissance Fair bragged on tape that taxpayers haven't given the park $100,000 a year like he has, and that he is the one responsible for installing all the electric throughout the area. He holds his fair and where it is now designated for staff to stay, what used to be the Boy Scout camping area. Is this true? Is this just the tip of the iceberg? The Renaissance Fair occupies Wickham Park as a 501c3 nonprofit organization and pays for it that way. Has management determined this is true? The Renaissance Fair has long outgrown Wickham Park in size, length, activities, numbers, traffic, and more, but park management tirelessly defends it taking over Wickham Park for 5 weekends of parties and nearly 2 months of occupying a large portion of the park 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They are allowed to park multiple RVs, buses, and tents where park goers would normally walk and enjoy nature. They've been allowed to use large swaths of land for their trailers and campers. They're allowed to stay at the stables with RVs for weeks. They park other RVs in the middle of the park for entire weekends. They built temporary fencing covered with advertising that stays for 2 months. I'd ask each of you to go each week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Theodore Hanier.
Thank you.
All right.
For allowing me to speak. This caliber was established in 1990. This last year was the 33rd disc caliber disc golf tournament. We love the course. We take care of our course. We don't mind the vets. The vets are great, but the traffic, some of the events, they dump their oil, they fry food, they dump their oil, piles of cigarette butts. Just there's homeless people The park needs maintained, clean. So, we need help, and it's not designed for giant events. It's for families and parties and birthdays. I had a custody party when I fought and got custody of my child. It has to change. Hopefully it can. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Roderick Queen? Yes, sir.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to thank Commissioner Feltner for bringing this, before the board, obviously recognizing the problems that are being created in that area. Obviously, as you mentioned, losing the big pavilion over at BCC is really what putting the squeeze on. But as we keep hearing, just the amount of time that's taken away from our everyday citizens, in the area trying to use the park, it doesn't create a safe environment. I'm a multi-user of the park. I like to say I use the disc golf course. I love using the mountain biking trails. I use the archery range. I like to take my sons there. They love to go play and run around. We go to use the dog park there as well. On the weekends during snowbird season, it's almost impossible. I live just off Parkway in US 1, turning onto Parkway. It was backed up almost to the railroad tracks. And with the way that you see the high-speed rail and everything coming, that's just going to cause more concerns for everybody out there. But it sounds like hopefully that there'll be some resolution passed today that can kind of help ease some of these issues. And thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
I think the speakers today said many things better than I can. Let me point out two things also. This won't take effect until 2025. So we're too late to affect 2024. So this will be for the year after that. So all of these events that will be coming 24, they understand that things will be changing in 25. So in Vieira, you may have noticed Space Coast Daily Park. Now that had to move because of the building of the new middle school. So the Space Coast Daily Fair was on the school board property, but now is next to St. John's on Stadium. And so I would suggest to you, there is a commercial venue, and Giles Malone is promoting that for these types of festivals and such. So there is an alternative in the center part of the county to use that facility. I appreciate your support today.
Thank you. Commissioners, I have no more lights. What's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I have a motion by Commissioner Feltner. Second by Commissioner Goodson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, passes 5-0. Thank you. We're moving into ID3.
Good morning, Commissioners. This agenda requests approval of a rate resolution to impose non-ad valorem special assessments against local hospitals for the state's Medicaid managed care program. This is a federally funded program and allows the state to access federal funds for managed care expenditures and offset the hospital's Medicaid shortfalls.
Thank you, ma'am. This is our third year doing this. Commissioners, do we have a motion? Motion by Commissioner Tabaya.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Steele. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, passes 5-0. Item G4.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. This item is required by Chapter 2023-17 Laws of Florida. The county is required by October 1st, 2023, and every 3 years thereafter to prepare an inventory list of all real property within the county's jurisdiction to which the county or any of its dependent special districts within its boundaries holds free, simple title that is found to be appropriate for affordable housing. We're required to hold a public hearing and get public input on the list that is attached to the agenda item. Do we have any public comment?
Oh, no, ma'am, I'm sorry.
Okay, no public comment. Thank you. And then the commission needs to make a review of the list and make any additions to it or deletions from the list. Do you have any
Gotcha.
changes
I
to
don't.
the list?
Commissioners, are we good with the list that they sent us? the VSG's on things down the road like landlocked, but it looked like a good list to me.
Then it's requested that the board adopt the resolution that's attached.
So moved, Madam Chairperson.
Motion by Commissioner Steele, second by Commissioner Tobias. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, passes 5-0. Thank you. That was a lot of work. Thank you. Most of the stuff they spend the most time on goes the quickest. We're moving into the H items. Commissioners, I just want to mention that on these, that we do a modified Roberts rule. So it's with what we do, kind of the chair just kind of sets the tone. So I'm fine with them probably being discussed again. Commissioner Tobias went ahead and agreed to this in the early years, that if it's something that you're not sure if you have the support on during board reports, he'd usually bring it up and see if he had another commissioner that would agree to it before we actually put it on the agenda. But I think these are fine going out, because Commissioner Tobias used to do that to us every meeting, and the room would fill up, and then we wouldn't have a second on the item. So I'm going to move into Mr. Still. This is yours on item H1, sir. I do have cards, but I do want to start out saying that this was really part of my recommendation to extend it. So I'm going to be supporting your request.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. I think we all know that there's been a little bit of hurrying that's gone on when we did away with cultural grants and brought in lifeguards. I'm very happy with the vote that I did in regards to that because of the priority of saving lives. So I got that. And, that left a big vacant hole in regards to cultural grants and where it would go. But in addition to that, one of the issues that came up was, and I was not on a commission, so I didn't understand, I didn't hear Commissioner Pritchett's recommendation to BCA that they, in fact, go out and look for city funds to be able to do that. But right now, what we're sitting is basically naked with no really cultural grants or no really cultural people to steer us in the right direction. So I've asked the county attorney and the county manager to see if there's a way that I could bring up talking about giving 3 months of funds to BCA. And the only way you can do it is that I'm going to move that the county commission grant a reconsideration of the vote so that we can have a reconsideration to bring it back before the commission. And I can't bring up the BCA action until I get that from the county commission if I'm going to get it. So I put a motion on the floor, and if I can get a second, then maybe we can go further.
County attorney, do we have to bring it back up like that, or are we allowed to start this with a new thing? Because this is actually a change in what we voted in before. This would be bringing them back for a 3-month extension on the contract.
You could consider it, Madam Chair, new business in that regard, I suppose. It's obviously very related to what you considered previously.
Okay.
But you could consider it new business. The way it was brought back here, it was brought back as a reconsideration.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and do it the way Mr. Still's requesting, but the other way my bills. But anyways, can I have a motion? I have a motion from Commissioner Still to bring this back up for consideration. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Tobias. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, passes 5-0.
Thank you very much for allowing us to potentially reconsider the BCA funding. I'm hoping that BCA got the message from the last time that we were here that they're going to need to go out and redo their financial structure and get some additional monies from a variety of other people. What I did not feel fair about is that I think we were about funding so that they could get back into a position of raising money and moving forward. So I'm going to ask the board today to please allow us, and I move that we give BCA 3 months worth of funding for the next fiscal year.
Thank you, sir. And I am going to support that. I do have comment cards. Yes, sir. Please.
Thanks, Madam Chair. My concern with the BCA is it's merely an administrative entity, and the money does not go directly to cultural organizations. Marketing grants are a different story, and there may be an agenda item coming up soon after that envisions just that and has no potential administrative component. On August 22nd, the board acted in a fair and appropriate manner, as Mr. Steele mentioned, when we voted to defund the BCA, or better yet, not continue the contract. However, the generous support and compromise offered by the chair and then mentioned or brought up by Commissioner Steele, putting this back on the agenda, I can support. This is as long as the exit contract is immediately terminated upon conclusion of the 3 months. I do have one question for Mr. Steele. I'm not in favor of handing over $53,040 to the BCA in exchange for nothing, because then it's not a contract. So my question is, as there are no cultural or major event grants to administer, and it's unfair to ask them to provide us an end of year report, as they'll only be around for 3 months. What services do you envision in exchange for this 3-month contract? I don't believe you intend this to be a handout either.
No, I don't. The services would continue on with being able to adopt economic cultural events for Brevard County. And in order to do that, I would think that they were going to need to raise some additional funds. So obviously they would need to give us some sort of report at the end of the, but unfortunately, that's the cart would be before the horse. So I understand what you're saying. We have not given them an opportunity to tell us what they would be more than happy to do. But my intent was today to be able to give this money to them so that they could get back the organizational abilities to raise money from the cities and other people. And I just don't want to see BCA going down the tubes, and I want to see cultural things happen in Brevard County. So I don't have a direct answer for you, Commissioner.
Okay, as Madam Chair, as we go forward, I trust either you or the chair. I just wanted to give some sort of staff direction. So this ends October 1. So we could potentially handle this, in a more expeditious fashion instead of having to bring that contract back. So that was my only question. I plan on supporting this. And Madam Chair, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. So what I'm hearing so far, I do have 6 cards. It sounds to me like the votes are to support it. Just to let you guys know not to say anything that's going to mess
Would
up
be a
your
good time to
chances.
sit down.
But if you have something you need to say, please come up. Absolutely. Miss Janet Forer? No, we're in H1. I'm sorry, you have to come forward if you want to speak and state your name for the record.
Madam Chairman and Commissioners, I should be speaking at H2. May I please move my time to speak to that?
Can you go fill out another card for me in the back? Do they have to have?
Do I need to go back and put H2 on it?
We're going to change it.
Okay, thank you very much.
I've never had that request before.
Huh.
All right, Mr. Aaron Collins? You good? Okay. Mike LaFortaine? Are you H1? I am. Okay, good.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Michael Fortune, Satellite Beach. I wanted just to comment on something that Senator Mayfield, Representative Soroy, and Commissioner Steele had spoken to about the strength of Brevard, and specifically about our ability to take small public investments and induce private investment and action for a sustainable return. We've talked about visitors, we've talked about families moving to Brevard and families staying in Brevard, or in my case, a family moving back to Brevard. And one of the things that the Burke Cultural Alliance does for us is in the form of program and capacity building and these many partnerships for art in public places, as well as art sometimes in private spaces that are used for public purposes. And I want to give one example to you, just to share a story, because it may not be one you're familiar with. It's the Holy Trinity West Chapel. And this is an example of art to lift up spirits. It was a process to inspire and educate children and families, and it produced a result that elevates our community and built a sustainable legacy of investing in people and families. This was a project led by BCA and funded in part by the families of Holy Trinity to bring a large scale, like the size of your wall here, a stained glass, an angelic stained glass piece to their West Chapel. It involved students of the school and a local artist who actually spoke at another county commission meeting. These students learned about architecture, they learned about sight and orientation, light placement. They learned about math, taking paintings from a teacher at Holy Trinity and enlarging them to make them into this very large piece. So that was a mathematical exercise. They learned about chemistry and how you make stained glass through adding metal components and other chemicals to them. They learned about physics and light and how it interacts. This particular artist doesn't use stained glass that's like little tile pieces like we're all familiar with. I hadn't seen this before, but this particular person like layers the glass and heats them all together. So students had to think about the physics of how the light would change through the day and go through the glass and induce different colors. And then lastly, the physics. These were tiles, so hung glass tiles. So they have to think about the physics of the fact that the tiles at the lower end, the chains are only holding a certain amount of weight, but at the top, the chains are holding more weight because they're holding more tiles and all these things that these students built. And at the end of it all, this beautiful, just stained glass piece. And the program came about because of BCA's involvement in coordinating and bringing these things together on a small public investment, met by the students' time, by the families of Holy Trinity. And the result was this piece that is legacy, right? These students, when they grow up and their families, when they bring their families into town, if they're still here, if they come back and visit, when grandma comes to town, they're going to point to this art that they built, this monumental art, and say, hey, look, I did this, right? They're going to have this for the rest of their life, their participation in this program, thanks to Brevard Cultural Alliance. And I just wanted to share this one story of many, of this result of a BCA program, funded by a small amount of money, that brought in private enterprise, private money, private activity and volunteering, and made a sustainable impact in our community. And that's legacy on these families who participated. That's the kind of work that BCA does. Just one example of many. Thank you for your time,
Thank
Madam
you,
Chair.
sir. Hopefully that'll continue with all the private funding as well. Ms. Martha Pizzaro?
I'm in favor of
Okay.
keeping our legacy.
I'm sorry, you'll have to come forward if you want to talk, but if if we're already voting on it, it's up to you with what you want to do.
Thank you, Martha Pissarro. We want to remember that BCA is a legacy within Brevard County, and we need to support it and the arts. Live for the arts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Doug Taylor?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. My name is Doug Taylor. I live in Palm Bay. I am on the board of directors of the Melbourne Art Festival, held in the back lake of Wickham Park for one weekend in April. We leave open the rest of the park, just going back to the other one where I didn't get a chance to speak. But I did want to thank you for hopefully continuing the support of the BCA. Hopefully it'll be longer than 3 months. I know as a Melbourne Art Festival, we're a 100% volunteer run organization. We count on the BCA to help us. We need their professional guidance and help to help us run things. They help promote us as well as other events and organizations, not only to Brevard County, but of course the state and beyond. People subscribe to their newsletter and come on their website. They should let us know what their analytics show for the number of people outside the area that they help bring in. They also recently did a marketing seminar last year. That was just wonderful. Earlier this year, that was just wonderful. It really brought us all together as nonprofits so we could network. We learned during valuable courses from professionals, and it was really truly a great thing to help us. And they also, yes, help us with the grants. But not only the Brevard grant, they helped at least several of our local organizations get a Florida state grant. So they are helping to fund us through other means also. Yes, we got for the first time ever, we got our Florida grant this year. So we're very pleased, and we wouldn't have got that without the BCA's help. You're a great commission. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Sandra Sullivan?
Good morning, Sandra Sullivan. So as you walk through the county commission offices, the attorney's office, the hallways, you see the art of Brevard. It's beautiful. It enlivens and and shows you and highlights the artists here in Brevard County. Go into other public buildings of Brevard County and you see the same. The walls would be very barren. But I also want to I'm going to speak to H1 and H2. I'm just going to say that we are just in NBETS invested $13 million last year, $11 million this year on the budget to attract and grow our space industry here. And so when we look at that and we're trying to attract talent, and one of the challenges we most have for Brevard is attracting people to come here because it's hard to get enough workers. So many industries are complaining of that. And of course, quality of life is very important. So I would just, as you walk out and you look at the walls, that's the Brevard Cultural Alliance at work. We see it all around us and in ways that aren't always really apparent, but this is really important to attracting the talent we need to grow space industry. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the end of the comment cards. Mr. Goodson, is that a new light, sir?
That's a new light, Madam Chair.
Okay.
May I? Thank you, ma'am. If you remember just the other day, we cut EDC by 10%. We wanted to cut it by 20. Commissioner Tavai did, so we agreed on 10. And I guess we put them on notice they're going to have to perform better or talk to the board more or something. Why would we not talk about cutting the Cultural Alliance 20%, telling them they're going to have to perform better, giving them more time than 3 months for all the good they do? Is that even a consideration that we want to consider? Or we just want to say 3 months and that's it? Right now, we have a motion, correct, Madam Chair? For 3 months, right?
Commissioner Goodson, I think we're giving them 25%.
Yeah, but you're
But not 20%.
Yeah, I'm talking about, we just cut EDC 20%. Why would we not take their full budget, cut it 20%, informing them that they have to report back to us better for a year,
Okay.
giving them that option? But we have a motion right now
Oh.
at 25%, right? Or
I'll let Commissioner Stills talk, but I think it's because we were telling them completely they had to go do something different because a year ago, the Board of County Commission told them they had to go get other funding. So in the kindness with Commissioner Still trying to come back and help them out for a little while to get them on their feet, because we actually give them already a year's notice before. But that's
Well,
just my thought.
yeah.
But
Well, the board's full of kindness because we've cut about everything in the last month, but we surely now, we're not saying we're funding lifeguards.
Commissioner Still.
No, I'm happy with the motion the way it is.
Okay. I have a motion. And do I have a second?
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
can Mr. Steele
Repeat the motion.
repeat the motion? just
Thank
real
you,
quick?
sir.
Yeah, the motion is to allow BCA to have an additional 3 months of funds for the next fiscal year. And at the end of the 3 months, they'll be on their own.
Thank you, sir. I have a motion. Do I have
Madam
a s-
Chair.
Yes, sir.
Can I amend that motion? See if I get Commissioner Steele's approval on it.
Okay.
I just want to authorize staff to draft that as well as execute the that 3-month exit contract for the Brevard Cultural Alliance, which would immediately terminate upon the conclusion of the 3 months after the contract goes in effect, with no options for renewal and approved funding for said contract, the amount of $53,040. I'm just trying to make this go quicker.
I agree. I agree, and I appreciate the amendment.
Used to have a lawyer that used to help them a lot. So have a motion and a second with the amendment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Thank you, sir. It passes 4-1 with Commissioner Goodson on the opposition. Moving to item H2. Commissioner Goodson, you're bringing this, sir.
Yes,
so-
ma'am. Thank you for reconsidering it. I'd like to make a motion that we reconsider the vote for the Tourist Development Council of 2023-24 Cultural Sport Grants Program recommendations. All of these were recommended for approval by the TDC board. And so that is the motion.
Do I have a motion to reconsider it? Do I have a second?
Out of respect for Commissioner Goodson, I second it.
Yes, Commissioner Feltner.
Just for a question, what does that do for the lifeguard funding that we
Well,
reallocated those funds for?
I think it'll depend if it gets a vote to go through or not. I think that'll have to be the next discussion after we decide to bring it back on the table.
So we would have to pass this today in order to
To
discuss.
even have a discussion. If he doesn't pass bringing it back up, it's just already taken care of. It's not going to come back for discussion. Correct?
You're right.
Okay, I got one right. All right, so I have a motion on the table and a second to bring this back up for discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Passes 4-1 with myself in objection. Okay, Commissioner Goodson, sir, if you want to go ahead and start your chain of thinking. And Commissioner Tabaya, I like what you sent us out to as an alternative in the marketing. So yes, sir, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to make a motion for approval of the 25 grants, and that is my motion, Madam.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second on that one? Okay, that one dies for a lack of second. Commissioner Tabaya, is that a new light, sir?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
On August 8th, the board was very clear in its unanimous vote to not fund the cultural grants in the same way that it had been previously funded. This idea put forward does not need to waive Robert's rules as confirmed by the county manager's office. I have an alternative option that provides for the opportunity for funding for organizations to receive grants with a reoccurring funding source. These ideas have been discussed with the tourist office director as well as county manager's office, and there are a whole number of possible discussion points. If we decide to move forward with this plan, these points of discussion would need to be addressed by the board to give staff direction on how to draft the guidelines. The handout is the one that reads a single marketing grant program for sports, cultural, and major events beginning 2023-2024. As you can see, there is the funding source as well as a potential amount. A way the awards could potentially be administered, as well as the committee that would be making that selection. So, Madam Chair, I'm going to leave this one up to you. If you would rather discuss this at a later date, I would be more than willing to put this one up on the agenda for the next meeting. If you would like to discuss it now, I'm more than willing to answer any questions. If you would like to have send this to the TDC to get their input on it, I'm more than willing to do that as option 3. So since I did not know you were voting down on the procedural motion, I would not have gone against the chair. So I am more than willing to entertain any one of those 3 options.
Okay, sir, I like some of your suggestions here. I like most of them. And whatever you want to do, I think a little bit of discussion today so that everybody kind of get a feel where we're at. But I think we do have to send it to the TDC to have them help with recommendations. But I like sending it back and working on a marketing subcommittee and maybe them giving us guidelines for like large marketing things. Like I think the air shows and the boats and the symphony orchestra, I think that when they market outside of the county and they're getting the heads and beds, that's completely right in line with what we're trying to do. And then we're not trying to pick winners and losers, things that are already established. And I met with the orchestra group, and he even said that he would be fine if we allowed the marketing through the TDC to kind of handle how they market that. So those are necessarily some good suggestions and ideas. And I think the ability to reimburse after they make the investment is probably a better thing for us too with these dollars. But that's just my thought on it, and I don't know where you guys are on it. But I think those are some pretty good ideas that would have worked out very well with the air show and the boat show if we would have just done reimbursements, because then we didn't have to get way down into their finances on everything. So, do you have any more lights? Commissioner Steele.
Thank you. Commissioner Tabaya, I actually think this is brilliant. I really do. It gives me some hope that we'd be able to go through with some of the grants that we need to have, and it brings some life back to the cultural grant program. I think that sending it to TDC is a great idea, and And if we can fine tune it, I think it's a great avenue to continue cultural grants that are meaningful to Brevard County.
Commissioner Feltner?
Ask the question I asked before. What does that ultimately do to the lifeguard funding that we?
The way it's structured and what's available in the current fund remaining, that it would have, if the board so chooses, it could have no impact on the funding level that was previously approved by the board.
Madam Chairperson.
Just to clarify real
Commissioner
quick.
Feltner, I don't think it does anything to the lifeguard things at all. It would have, if we would have adopted his particular motion, Commissioner Goodson's, we would have had to reiterate and change things around, but the lifeguards funds are still intact from the original denial of the cultural grants that we did the first time. This is a completely different funding mechanism that has nothing to do with lifeguards. If I'm incorrect, somebody please tell me.
Madam Chair.
Please.
So funding point one, this funding is derived from the remaining cost savings from the elimination and or combination of the major event grants, which we did away with, both Brevard Cultural Alliance, which we did away with 100%, then 75% cultural grants and sports grants, less the 20% that was allocated to lifeguard services. So the amount would be dictated based on how much we decided to go or how much the TDC recommended for us to go forward. But those savings combined, less the 20% that was going to the lifeguard, would not have an impact on lifeguard services.
All right, fair enough.
All that to say no. Good
sorry.
question. That's all right. That's good. So Commissioner Tobias, are you comfortable with us sending this back to the TDC board now for recommendations?
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
You may make a motion to send the single marketing grant program for sports and cultural and major event grant sheet fiscal year 2023-2024 back to the TDC for review and recommendation back to the board. Madam Chair, the question is, I didn't envision this as a option. So is there a date that you'd like me to amend that so they can bring back to us?
Mr. Kranis, would that need like a couple months or 1 month? Because I know we have a meeting in 1 month. 1 month.
Awesome.
Okay.
Okay. By the, I got to look at when, let me,
When's our next TDC?
In a week, 2 weeks.
I want to put a commission meeting.
Madam Chair, next
Yes.
TDC meeting is the 27th of September. So then we could bring it back in October.
The
to the board.
October 10th. So to bring back to the board by the recommendations by October 10th, Madam Chair.
Okay. Getting thumbs up. Okay, good. Yes, sir.
I'll second.
Got a motion and second. And I do just want to reiterate this with the county attorney. The cards I have, that motion for rescinding the vote. How do I work that since that didn't go through to reconsider it?
So this is part of the overall H2 item.
Yes, I haven't
So-
just fill out public comment cards.
Well, I think they can still speak to this item as part of H2 because
Okay.
the option that's being presented and considered was made part of the H2 item. So they can speak on it now if they wish, but in light of what the board's contemplating doing, they may wish to go speak at the TDC or a future board meeting. But prior to the board taking action and voting on the motion, I think they should be afforded that opportunity to speak on the item if they wish.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move into Ms. Martha Presero. And then Mr. Doug Taylor.
Thank you again, commissioners. I am at a loss for words in many, many ways about the history of where our cultural funding through the county has gone over these past decades. I've been here for a little over 40 years and applying for grants and assistance with our cultural programs for the better part of 30 years. The initial county general fund had a bucket for cultural. We did grants through the BCA. We did them along the lines of what was allowed at the state level. We had really good processes for applying for these grants and being awarded through panelists and discussion with the cultural organizations in the BCA. Final approval at the board level. Then we changed it to the Tourism Development Council, where we were allotted 4% of the collected heads and beds taxes, which we generate. We are that sustaining model. All of these organizations, all of these nonprofits that put on every cultural event within the county are your driving model for economy. And that 4% is a pittance of what we have collected and brought in for everyone. Now that is taken away, wiped out, gone. And we're talking about going back to just a marketing grant. We had a 50% spend out of county with this last process that we went through. Everyone applied, did their due diligence, and goodwill was set forward that we were on the right track for a good program for this county. Now it's wiped out. We have no recourse for anything that has to do with any of our general program costs. We have to go outside of the county. We have to go to the state. We have to go to the NEA. But our own county, where we drive that economic model, is not in support of the programs and the organizations that bring culture to the citizens and the visitors of Brevard County. Nonprofits throughout the state of Florida contribute over $1 billion to the economic model. Nonprofits. We heard that last week in a wonderful, wonderful presentation. And we really want to work back to having a cultural program within our county. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Doug Taylor. And then Janet Forer.
Thank you once again. My name is Doug Taylor. I live in Palm Bay, and I am on the board of directors of the marketing director for the Melbourne Art Festival, now in our 39th year. This year will be our 39th year. Based on the Cultural Committee rankings, we scored over 93% on their criteria, which was third overall in rankings of the 25 that were to be given money. We even started rebranding our festival several years ago as a Central Florida Art Festival, so that we could help bring in and put heads on beds. According to Visit Florida, each visitor spends $754 times the 1,000 people that the phone tracker said, or up to 2,000. That's $750,000 to $1.5 million of direct impact that visitors from out of the area have contributed to the Brevard County economy based on just the Melbourne Art Festival in our 2 days that we do it, April 27th and 28th. We operate on a razor-thin budget. Margin revenues come from booth fees, vendors, patrons, beverage sales, and grants. After moving from downtown in 2018 for financial reasons, we were just starting to turn a profit when COVID hit. We slowly recovered in 21 and 22, but still aren't full speed. We still haven't added back our 5K race yet. Ironically, this year's Melbourne Art Festival was held 2 weeks after the Bud Light boycott started, plummeting our beer sales. Truly, if it wasn't for the grant that we hopefully will, the grant funds assigned to us last year for this year, we wouldn't have been able to maintain our mission, which is to continue providing scholarships for students in the local area who want to take classes in art and music. I stand before you today to make a plea for continued funding of Brevard County's arts and cultural events. These events are not just a source of entertainment, but they're part of the lifeblood of our community, enriching the lives in countless ways and contributing significantly to our local economy and overall well-being. Obviously, you mentioned earlier, each commissioner hand-selected representatives, and they unanimously agreed to fund these 25 organizations based on the fact that we do put heads in beds. But the good news is the $535,000 equals just 0.119% of the 448 million raised by the tourist head tax. At the 8/8 meeting, I believe you actually came up with the solution. Madam Chairman, you had talked about the 900,000 cash carryover with 1.4 moving on to marketing of lifeguards. And then Commissioner Tobias mentioned that it's actually 1.8, his numbers, with a
Thank you,
2
sir.
million. That
Thank you,
extra
sir.
500,000
Ms.
would more than
Janet.
fund us. Thank you.
Ms. Janet Foro, and then Aaron Collins.
First of all, thank you to all the county commissioners for the opportunity to speak on the issue of providing funding for the Brevard arts organizations in Brevard County. I am Janet Four. I'm chair-elect for the Brevard Symphony Orchestra Board of Directors, and I also serve as the president of the BSO South Guild. Many numbers throughout the community. I should have probably been here before. The BSO presents classical, pops, and holiday concerts at the King Center for the residents of Brevard County. In addition, the BSO provides 4 free large concerts, actually 6, for our residents, free of charge. An outdoor concert, the 4th of July concert in Cocoa, with thousands and thousands of attendees. And I can't tell you how many thousands, there's no lawn left. A family concert and 4 5th grade concerts, both at the King Center, for over 1,710 attendees each concert. Other than the funding you get, we raise the rest of the funds for that. You can only imagine the cost of this. And we cannot do it alone. And this is just not, I'm not begging you or anything, but we cannot do this alone. We need your help. All the organizations need your help. We rely on the annual funding received from the county to provide these educational and patriotic concerts, the free ones that I just mentioned. Without this funding, we have already discussed as a board, we will probably have to eliminate at least one of these concerts, if not more, and reduce our service to the community. Economically, corporations can relocate their headquarters anywhere. We all know this. Some of the criteria they consider include the obvious: infrastructure, schools, parks, quality of life, international airports. They just don't want airports, they want international airports. But also, on their list of criteria, they include the visual and performing arts, which also include, they check to see if that area or that community has a performing arts hall, a symphony orchestra, the ballet, playhouse theaters. And, you know, it's just not the Brevard Symphony Orchestra. All of the arts, we're reaching in our pockets. Other community leaders are reaching in their pockets to make this happen. And in our budget, we get so little from you. Please don't take it away. And please vote yes for all the residents and the children of Brevard County and the arts. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Collins.
Thank you so much. It's great to see you all again. I appreciate your time. I just want to take a moment and first just thank you all for accepting my hundreds of emails I've been sending to you over the last month, and in fact, sitting down with me and some of you on multiple occasions to talk to me about arts funding. So I truly appreciate your time. I feel everything that has been brought up today by you all, and the direction of the grant program is a great start. And I'm hopeful that we can sit down in the future and find a happy medium and a way that we can see that the arts not only thrive here in Brevard County, but really do justice with the tourism as well. So I just wanted to take a moment for reconsidering. I know it was a big ask and a big step. So this is a good first step, and I sincerely appreciate you doing that. So thank you so much, and you all have a great day.
Thank you, sir. That's the end of the cards, commissioners. I have a motion on the table in a second. Are you guys good with what you have written down? You want me to, I thought you were going to say that. That's why I paused with you. Commissioner Tobias.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is one I was on the fly, so I'd like to direct staff to bring the single market grant programs for sports, cultural, and major events beginning 2023, 2024 worksheet to the TDC for review and provide recommendations to the board by the October 10th meeting. That would be to the best of my recollection, the motion, Madam Chair.
Thank you, sir. Second.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Passes 5-0. Miss Kathy, thank you for all you do, ma'am. And I'm guessing there are thousands of arts and cultural entities out there countywide, and I'm sure they're going to continue doing all the things that they're doing. It's a lot of people out there working their businesses, and it's good for the county. I am now going to go to board reports. County manager.
I have one report. Just wanted to let the board know that our fire rescue engine strike team and support K9 came back to Brevard this past Friday after serving in Lafayette County during their hurricane recovery efforts, as well as the two employees supporting that same effort that came back over the weekend from emergency management.
Thank you, sir. County attorney.
No report, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Goodson.
Only report, Madam Chair, I have is Florida State won again.
Okay. Commissioner Feltner.
Just one thing real quick. As I'm sure all of you read in the newspaper, David Panicola passed away. He was the deputy mayor of Indian Harbor Beach. He spent 2 decades in city government, serving on the city council since 2003. He was mayor in 2015, and he was deputy mayor in 2019. So on behalf of the board, just like to say our thoughts and prayers are with his family. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That's very, very good thing to bring up. Commissioner Steele?
No report.
Thank you, sir. I have no report, and I'm going to turn this over to the vice chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll start with a quick board report. I was going to skip this, but then Commissioner Goodson mentioned Florida State. I'd like to point out that the University of Florida was ranked #1 in the Wall Street Journal amongst public universities and 15th overall. And Florida State was right up there. They only fell 87 places behind the University of Florida, according to the Wall Street Journal. So I'm sure they've moved up a couple hundred to get within striking range. But that being said, their football team is really darn good this year. Okay, on to the vice chair report. This was an unusual one. Today is National Report Medicare Fraud Day, according to nationaltoday.com. So it's amazing where these things, again, that's AI. Those are the weirdest things you'll see until the next meeting. Useless Florida fact. Florida's Britton Hill, located in Lakewood Park, is 345 feet above sea level. And this is a little weird. It is the lowest high point of any state. So 345 feet higher than Space Mountain, I guess. This day in Florida history, on this day in 1965, Vernon Maxwell was born in Gainesville. Maxwell is arguably one of the greatest University of Florida basketball players. He led the Gators to their first ever NCAA tournament appearance and still holds 15 Gator team records. And moving on to the most important portion of that, county employee recognition, is Brian Breslin with Housing and Human Services, as well as the ADA coordinator. 27 years of public service. I'm going to give you a second here, but I wanted to go over what your colleagues had said about you, and there's some great pictures up there. Brian has been a resident of Brevard since 1983. He graduated from Melbourne High and furthered his education at Florida State. Sorry, I did not. Thanks for rubbing it in, though. Hey, it could be worse. It could be Alabama, right? I had to get that in. Sorry. He started his career with the county in 1996 as a pretrial release investigator at the Brevard County Jail. After 1 year, he was promoted to county probation officer, overseeing persons sentenced to misdemeanors, pretrial diversion, community service, and probation for DUI, reckless driving, minor drug offenses, and/or domestic violence. In 2001, Brian accepted a position with the county Equal Employment Opportunity, Americans with Disability Act coordinator. In 2002, he accepted a position with the Housing and Human Services Department as the Department Fair Housing Coordinator, contract monitor, as well as retaining the duties of his county Americans with Disability Act coordinator. As part of his work as coordinator, Brian works closely with all county departments to develop and implement policies and procedures to ensure that programs with facilities allow ADA regulations. He also provides direction regarding employee accessibility and accommodations. Brian has served on the United Way of Brevard County's funding allocation panel, the board of directors of the Space Coast Center for Independent Living, now known as the Resource Center for Disability Solutions, and on the board of direction with the Space Coast Field of Dreams. He was also one of the United Way's 30 under 30 emerging leaders. Brian enjoys going to the local gym, spending time with family, and they put this in colors for me, watching FSU sports, visiting local breweries, good, and with friends and going on cruises. He recently adopted a forever family member, Snickers. Brian, it sounds like you are a busy man. If you'd like to add to any of that, we'd love to hear.
I'm good. You're short on time, but I would like to thank you for this honor. I appreciate it. And go Knowles.
You had to get that in.
Go
Brian,
Knowles.
thank you for keeping us on our toes. I really
Thank you, sir.
appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, now on to public comment. I have 4 public comment cards. We'll start with Matthew Nyland concerning trees.
Good morning. My name is Matthew Nyland. I'm a resident of unincorporated South Rockledge in District 2. We call our neighborhood Bonaventure because it's been named that since it was settled in 1868 by Isaac Stewart. Twice before, the county has come to our neighborhood to say that they want to cut down or severely prune the live oak trees that line Rockledge Drive in our neighborhood. And twice before, the neighborhood has banded together to push back against that. We believe those trees are a beautiful part of our neighborhood, an essential part of what makes living in our neighborhood a wonderful place. They're enjoyed by not only the folks in our neighborhood, but all the people who drive up and down Rockledge Drive. So we've pushed back on this twice before. After the last time, we thought we received a promise that the county wouldn't be back again, but the county has come back again saying that they want to cut down or severely prune those trees, and the neighborhood is again altogether in opposing that and would like you to reconsider that and not do that damage to the beauty of our neighborhood. So we will continue to push back. We hope that you'll reconsider because we love our neighborhood and we love the trees that are part of that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Nyland. Second is Katie Delaney.
Hello again, commissioners. I'm here to express my deep disappointment regarding the recent decision by the majority of this commission to defund sample ballots from the Supervisor of Elections budget. During the last election cycle, I had the privilege of volunteering at various polling sites across the county as a poll watcher. What struck me the most was the significant number of voters who brought their sample ballot with them as a guide. This simple yet invaluable resource proved instrumental in providing voters, in helping voters navigate the voting process effectively, and definitely contributed to the low wait times. It's disheartening to witness the disappointment and frustration of many residents throughout this county in response to this decision. While the government often allocates resources to projects that many people don't use, it's baffling to me that we would cut funding for something that the community genuinely relies on. I firmly believe that Providing sample ballots is not a frivolous expenditure. It's a vital and highly utilized tool for our voters here in Brevard County. I respectfully request that both Commissioner Pritchett and Commissioner Steele reconsider their vote on this matter and support the continuing funding of the sample ballots. It is critical to remember that not all members of our community have means to access digital sample ballots via email. The newspaper option also falls short, failing to provide voters with the personalized guidance that they need to make informed choices. In closing, I ask that you reconsider this decision and prioritize the interests of our constituents by continuing to fund sample ballots. By doing so, we can ensure that every eligible voter in Brevard has the tools they need to participate fully in our democratic process. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Delaney. I have 2 3s, so I went in alphabetical order. Mr. Bobanek.
Good morning. Tim Bobanek, Supervisor of Elections for Brevard County. I'm here this morning to urge you to reconsider your vote for last week to defund sample ballot mailings and postage paid vote by mail from my budget. Since the meeting last week, I've personally spoken with numerous voters who are absolutely stunned that this board would vote on such a measure. You know you made a bad decision when, according to this morning's Florida Today article, the heads of both political parties here in Brevard agreed that this was the wrong decision. Just a reminder about how many voters this affects. We have 416,000, maybe 17,000 plus registered voters in the county. Florida Today's Sunday subscribership is 12,472. Email sample ballot requests are 68,000. So that's 335,962 voters, or 81%, who will not get a sample ballot. This is going to trigger a deluge of calls to my office from angry voters wondering why they didn't get a sample ballot after having received one for the last 15 years. Voters who don't have access to computers and voters without printers will not be able to print a sample ballot. I've spoken with many voters who contacted some of your offices, and they're saying to me that you're telling them that your vote doesn't actually prevent me from mailing sample ballots. While technically this may be true, I really think you're deceiving the voters by telling them I can still mail sample ballots right after you eliminated the funds to do so. With regards to the postage paid mail ballot, my position hasn't changed. Voters shouldn't have to pay to vote. Many of our voters have disabilities that prevent them from voting at the polls. Those same disabilities prevent them from traveling to their local post office to purchase a stamp to mail it. I don't think voters with disabilities should have to pay to vote when nobody else does. I urge this board to reconsider its vote and return the money to my budget to pay for sample ballots and postage paid mail ballots. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bobanek. Ms. Sandra Sullivan.
Sandra Sullivan, South Patrick Shores. So I wanted to talk about North Merritt Island. So you guys paid about a $500,000 study, hydrology study for North Merritt Island. And so this image is a 10-year flood map, not a 25 flood map, 25-year, not a 100-year flood map. This is a 10-year flood map, and most of it's underwater. So, the development of that in this study showed that just even since 2018, there's been more flooding because of it. So I want to go back a little bit here and just talk about NBEDS, which is a North Brevard Economic Development Zone, a special district created in 2011. And last year was about nearly $14 million, and this year it's about $11 million. So when NBEDS was created in 2011, 40% of that, almost 41% of that, comes from District 2. and District 4 is 26%. I think that's important because money is coming from all over the county for a district that was initially created to be a District 1 district. So in 2010, there was an interlocal agreement between Space Florida and Titusville to provide site planning, building planning, and inspections. And they referenced that earlier. So you could infer from this that there was an intent thereafter to extend their control within District 2 for District 1 special district. Their boundaries, District 1 then. In 1989, a special district called North Merritt Island Special District was created, which had the boundary map of that area for all of North Merritt Island, including the federal lands. In 2011, NBEDS was created only for District 1, okay? And then interestingly enough, so the intent can be shown all along, there was intent here. In 2012, when the North Merritt Island was added, phase 1, phase 2 was added. At this same agenda meeting, you did an agenda to do a feasibility study for incorporation. In 2016, phase 3 was added. In 2021, Robert Jordan's been on the board since the beginning, proposed moving North Merritt Island to District 1. So you sort of get a theme here. And then, the concern I have is as you go in and you start doing a huge amount of development there on an area that they're going to have to fill in a lot of fill. And I've been to Broadacres. I've seen the flooding concerns and the flooding issues there. And the overall appearance is the people are expendable.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. Seeing no lights on and no more cards, I call this meeting adjourned at 10:57 a.m.
The opinions expressed by any member of the public during any period of public comment